Okay, so let's talk about what happens when a resident cannot pay. And is this a frequent thing? Is it a concern? What are the action steps you should take? And those kind of things. So I would kind of start here by saying the 4+ years at Platinum, we've had no issues. One minor blip, but no like real issues. We've had to kick people out. We've given people a 3-day. We've given them a 30-day, but it was all non-financial related. And we'll talk about what that looks like for our contracts and stuff here in a minute. But I would say that what our niche is being two components to this. One, usually more on the luxury side, and therefore having a location that is not in the worst part of town or in bad cities, and also therefore being in an area that we're attracting the right type of customer, I think is the biggest preventative to this issue, right? We're not bringing in people who are Medicaid and things like that. I think you probably have a way harder time, and it'd be a real problem to discuss. I honestly think that this is not a big problem, but it does get asked a lot. So I do want to talk through it. And so from that perspective, right, you have what our product is, being a luxury product, which really therefore attracts clients that have more income and therefore are usually just a little bit more financially prepared. And I'll dig into that a little bit more. But the other component to this is on the niche side, we're end of life, and it becomes more of a necessity, especially when you're talking memory care or, really the bigger problems. That's what we're doing. We're solving a bigger problem. And usually if we go back to, I talk about this funnel starting at home, trying to stay, mom is trying to stay at home as long as possible. And then what's the next least expensive thing they can do? Perhaps it's an independent living apartment. And then from there, they decline a little bit. They'll bring in, a caregiver a little bit at a time, or a family come and help. And then they move to, entry level assisted living, and then more end of life care. Those other things, when budgets get hard and things like that, those are, not necessities. You could cut those things, right? You could move back in with daughter if mom is fine and just needs a little bit of help, and she's not cooking anymore. She's not driving, but she can toilet herself and bathe herself, and, she's not going to run down the street in her underwear. When you get to that place, right, where you don't know how to talk anymore, you can't toilet yourself anymore. It takes 2 people to lift you out of a wheelchair in and out of bed. You can't get in the car anymore. That's a real problem, right? That is not something that you can just cut out of the budget. So I think those 2 perspectives on what our niche is really insulate us from the issues here. And I won't say there will be never issues, but I would say that we're probably cutting out 90% of potential issues by first and foremost who our customer is, who we are attracting. Because it's also not just about the resident. It's the resident and the family, right? It's a package deal, because usually when you are in that place, you have a power of attorney. You have the son, the daughter, the spouse, someone whose family who has taken over medical and financial power of attorney. And I think that's the really key thing that we'll talk about here in our contract that I'll share here in a minute. But when you have somebody who is not about to pass away, that has a lot to, going for them, and they have to sign on the dotted line, they are responsible for mom's finances and still covering mom's debt or invoices after she does pass. That really takes away a lot of the risk and the burden. So for us, we have had one instance where we had a resident. She was very, very towards the front of when we opened Platinum in Mesa. And we opened in COVID, and then COVID happened, and then inflation went nuts, right? And then all of a sudden, bed rates start jumping by $1,000. The next year, another $1,000. The market just went crazy. And I was not raising this lady's rent. She was at, I think, $5,250. And that was a little bit low on market for when we first opened. But then, we're in the 8s now. And so I wasn't raising rent until at some point I'm like, man, I got to raise this lady's rent a little bit, right? We keep giving staff raises and stuff like that year after year. And so I bumped her rent, I think $500 or so. And I sent a 60-day notice to the daughter who was a financial POA. And then she responded back a few weeks later like, hey, we're not able to handle this, right? We're going to move mom to another option. And we're like, okay, cool. I understand. And that's what she did. She gave her 30-day notice. They paid the rent through the rest of the days. And then she went and found a lower level of care assisted living. And she had a shared room. And I think she found some shared room in kind of a ghetto place for like $3,500 or something. And again, like the mom herself had no assets, no financial means. She might have gotten some type of, Social Security. I don't know what that income was, but it was for sure not coming close to covering rent at Platinum or at a lower end one. So daughter was covering it, and daughter was, 65 and divorced and paying this out of her own pocket, right? And that's a hard situation that a lot of people are in.